Welcome back to another episode of the Black Liberty Podcast. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Drop a like, download the podcast, leave a comment whether you agree or disagree with the things that I say on here. I still appreciate it. It's still nothing but love and respect. So we're going to hop straight into it. So today we have a very hot topic that's been going around. It's really been going around for a long time, but lately it's been gaining a lot more traction. So there's a theory called critical race theory, and a lot of you have had discussions about it, and some people just simply don't know what it is. You might have heard about it, and you got some questions. Well, guess what? I'm here to answer them questions for you. I'm here to talk about it and discuss it. And things that I say on here is, how I feel. I try to hit you with some facts. Anything I'm talking about, trust me, I've done my research on. I don't speak nothing and say anything that I ain't did the research on myself. So let's just go into a little bit of background about this critical race theory. So what is critical race theory? So critical race theory is what you would call an intellectual movement. So it's not like a civil rights movement or anything like that, but it's a loosely organized framework that teaches that race is not a natural or biologically grounded feature. So basically, with that being said, it teaches that race is not something that we naturally think about. Race is something that was constructed as a way to separate and exploit people of color. So when you think about where we come from as a people, especially as African Americans in this country, race was never an issue until we came over here. And systematically, European society created a separation of race. One race is superior to the next. So basically, critical race theory is trying to bring these discussions to light and trying to bring forth how this type of thinking created the concept of race. So some of the things that are included in the training and even in school. So there was a man, his name was Dr. Derek Bell, and the training for critical race theory was developed, and he was actually Barack Obama's mentor. And it's basically a training that puts people in the hot seat to make people open up their eyes and get a better understanding of why things are the way that they are. Why does racism exist in America? What has led up to this point where there's such a clash between races in 2021? Why has this continued to happen? So when Donald Trump was in office, he called it un-American and claimed that it was potentially harmful to white workers. So, for instance, there was a banning in police stations where they wanted to teach racial sensitivity classes, and they began to ban it because they feel like racial sensitivity classes are basically they feel like it's disrespectful. You're forcing somebody to learn about race when they don't want to. To me personally, that's just an excuse to not face head on the issues and the problems and why we've come to this point and why there's such a separation of races. So let's dive right into it. How does it work? So critical race theory, the view that race, instead of being biologically grounded, is a social construct. And by that, it means that it's created to the interest of the European culture in America. It's created around the European society in America. And it's basically the laws that we follow. And some laws have been done away with, but because this system was created around race and the separation of races, in this law, one race being superior to the next, it has created this system and this structure of racism. So how did it even we don't even really understand. A lot of people don't understand how it even got here. It's actually a lot older than what people realize. It actually started in the mid 1970s, around there. A bunch of legal professors, they were beginning to get concerned about how slow the laws were changing to promote equality, racial equality. Because during this time, we still had this huge structure put in place, and this system in place that separated blacks and whites. Blacks weren't allowed to drink from the same water fountains. It was a system of blacks had to go around to the back to eat. Blacks that even fought for this country, went to war and fought for this country, still had to sit at the back of the bus, or were lynched, or set on fire, or beat, or like I said, had to go around just to get something to eat. Weren't allowed to even look at a white man. So again, it's this entire system and structure embedded in the laws that created this system of racism. So all around the country, there's been this big movement to try to ban critical race theory. And so far, at least about 6 or 7 Republicans from states like Tennessee, Texas, Idaho, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Louisiana, they all are beginning to ban critical race theory, especially from the classrooms. And it also bans teachers from teaching that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. That an individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, is inherently privileged, racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or subconsciously. That is inherently racist or sexist, or designed by a particular race or sex to oppress members of another race or sex. And that this state or the United States is fundamentally or irredeemably racist or sexist. And again, to me, now this is just my opinion, to me, it sounds like you are trying to avoid teaching what needs to be taught in school. Because our children are growing up in a system that is hundreds of years old, that has embedded itself and created itself on the foundation and separation of races. So to think that you're worried about hurting white kids' feelings and making them feel like they're, how do I explain it? Making them feel like, you know, they're ashamed of who they are. But let's take one thing into consideration. Black kids in this country, in the education system, have to walk out of the classroom and have to be ashamed about being black. Because when they open up that history book, the only thing they see is European history. Lie after lie after lie. So now all of a sudden, because the playing field is beginning to get even, you're more worried about the white kids' feelings and their white fragility that you're trying to keep intact. But it wasn't an issue and a problem to continue to teach European history to black kids while teaching black kids that their race is less than the white race. Now all of a sudden it's an issue and you don't want to teach critical race theory. If you want to fix the racial issue in this country, you have to come head on. You got to meet it head on and say, okay, this is what happened. These are the laws that were created around the separation of black and white. This is the history of how this country was created, not this fairy tale world or this fairy tale idea that great European explorers discovered America and they were friendly and all this other type stuff. Because I guarantee you this, nowadays in 2021, there are white children that want to learn this stuff. They want to learn this stuff. You cannot say that critical race theory is creating separation, because the separation was already created from the foundation of this country. So how is teaching that separating the races and making white kids feel bad about themselves. You teach it so that the next generation under us and under them understands what mistakes not to make. You have to teach the truth about history. But because white fragility is a thing, and there's been this indoctrinated, however you say the word, there's been this idea, this ideology that black people should just get over it. It happened hundreds of years ago, even though it's still going on today. That we should just move on from it. And kids don't see race. That's all they see on TV is race. Black people fighting white people fighting black people. Every time a black child turns on the television, they see somebody that looks like them getting gunned down in the street. Every single time that child steps out their front door, that black child at one point in their life is going to experience racism. They're going to experience being treated like dirt because of the color of their skin. So you want us to stop talking about race, and you don't want us to teach it in school, but yet you want to continue to teach European history in your school books. You want to continue to teach the lies because it's created and made you comfortable in your skin and created this superiority complex. And you don't want to hear anything outside of that because that makes you uncomfortable. That's why you don't want to teach critical race theory. But yet again, we have to sit in a classroom and be taught European history. So when my children walk out of that classroom, the only thing they think about their race is that they were illiterate, that they came from nothing. They were wild animals, didn't know how to read and write, didn't know how to speak English. They were slaves, given the slops. You think that don't have an effect on a little black boy or a little black girl walking out that classroom? You think that don't make them ashamed of who they are? Now all of a sudden you're upset because we're trying to teach the truth? And that's what you don't like. You don't like the truth. You don't want to hear the truth. But it's coming out one way or another. Whether you want it to or not, it's coming out. So at the end of the day, if you truly want change in this country, you have to take a step back and look at the foundation. You have to take a step back and see why things are the way that they are. And you can bring up black on black crime and all this other type stuff in our own communities. Take a step back. That's all you got to do. But the choice is yours, people. What is it you want to do? Do you really want change? If you really want change, you got to admit the truth. You can't change without the truth. And critical race theory is something that should be taught in all schools and all places of law enforcement and all of that, because it teaches you what people of color every single day have gone through in this country for 400 plus years. It teaches you our experiences. It teaches you the struggle and why we feel the way we feel. And if you can't understand that, it's because you're not trying to understand that. Because you've grown comfortable. But it's time to change. It's time to let it go. It's time to face it head on. Teach the truth. be real. What's wrong with being real? Who cares about somebody's feelings getting hurt? If it's speaking the truth and it's telling the truth, it should be an eye opener. It should be something that you take and build on. The very laws that we are told to follow. Look at the history of them laws. Look at the loitering laws. Look at the black code laws. Redlining. Look at these things. Study these things with an open mind. Stop being so closed-minded. Think about the struggle that other races have had to go through in this country. Open up your hearts. Open up your eyes and your mind. But the choice is yours. But when the truth comes out, like it is, when the truth comes out and the truth is exposed, it tears down that system of superiority. And it needs to come down because no race is better than the next. We are all human beings. But what is taught is that one race is superior to the next. In everything that is taught in school, one race is superior to the next. One race discovered America. One race discovered this. One race did this. The European race did this. The European race did that. But we don't want to go into detail about where black kings and queens in Africa, what they did. We don't want to tell the truth about that. We want to lie about that. So don't get upset because the truth is coming out. And again, more and more European, more and more white kids are wanting to learn these things. Because these white kids they don't see race. They want the truth. It's not the kids, it's not these kids in school that have an issue with critical race theory or racial discussions. It's the older generations that have a problem with it because you've been so set in your ways. It's time to let it go. Are you gonna let it go? If you're not gonna let it go, then don't be surprised when the truth slaps you in the face. We are supposed to love everybody, but we must love in truth and not in silence. And we are not going to sit back and continue to suffer in silence. We are not going to sit back and continue to struggle in silence. There's a generation today that is going to be heard whether you want to be heard or not. Their voices will be out there. And it's not just one race standing with them. So for those who are comfortable with this systematic construction and foundation of racism in this country, who believe that the things that they say are not racist and nobody should be made to feel uncomfortable in their own skin. That's how black people and minorities in this country have felt for hundreds of years. We have felt uncomfortable in our skin because you created a system to tell us that our skin is who defines us, not our ability to succeed. The melanin in my skin determines my social class. Not what I can accomplish, not the hard work that I put in. This is the system that was created. But y'all don't want to hear that. That ain't something y'all want to hear. But that wall is crumbling really, really slow. But bigger and bigger chunks of it are coming down. We got a long way to go, people. Long way to go. But if somebody don't speak the truth, we'll never get to our destination. Sorry, had a moment. But we got to do better. We got to do better, people. So with that being said, again, I love everybody and I welcome the conversations. I don't care what race you are. I welcome the conversations. A lot of people have been blowing my page up, mad and upset because I'm speaking the truth. And I'd rather you be upset and mad because that means you listen to the things that I'm saying. And hopefully one day it registers to you. And hopefully it registers to us as a people. So again, I love everybody, no matter what race. But we gotta do better. And the only way to do better is to come together and face the bloody history of this country. Face the dark past of this country. Tear down the lies and the manipulation and the systematic racist laws. Things gotta change. Period. I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Again, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And hopefully I inspired somebody. So peace and love to everybody. Again, no matter what race, y'all have a beautiful day and God bless.